If you are new to Arc Raiders, this game can feel confusing, brutal, and honestly a bit unfair. You drop in, everything wants you dead, and before you know it, you've lost all your gear. But Arc Raiders isn't about being good at the game or winning every fight, it's about understanding the fundamentals. And in this beginner's guide, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know to survive your first raids. We'll cover all the basic weapon types, the main enemies, and the core mechanics that every new player needs to understand. This isn't a best meta loadout video and is not about high skill PvP plays. This guide is about learning how Arc Raiders actually works so you can make smart decisions, survive longer, and actually enjoy the game. So before we talk about guns, enemies, or maps, let's start with the most important thing every beginner needs to understand: what Arc Raiders actually is. At its core, Arc Raiders is a PvP VE extraction shooter. That means you're dropped into a map with AI enemies, other players, and a limited amount of time to decide what risk you're willing to take. Your goal isn't to win, it's to leave alive. The easiest way to explain Arc Raiders is there's going to be a common loop that everyone faces. You deploy into a map, you loot weapons and materials. If you have to, you deal with enemies, and then you extract. If you extract successfully, you keep what you found. If you die, you lose what you brought in. This is where a lot of new players struggle. Arc Raiders isn't about kills, it's not about clearing the whole map. It's about decision making, knowing when to fight, when to avoid danger, and when to leave. Every extra minute you stay in a raid increases your risk. More loot usually means more danger, you're going to encounter more players, and there's fewer options to leave. As the maps go on, extraction points close. Sometimes the smartest play is extracting early with less loot, instead of losing everything. Once you understand that survival comes first, everything else starts to make sense. So next, let's break down the weapons and what guns you would typically encounter when you first begin. Before we talk about the specific guns themselves, it is important to note that each gun has pros and cons. Arc Raiders is very helpful with the information that it provides about each gun in the gun description. They tell you how good they are against Arc, and they tell you the type of weapon it is. I'm going to be covering all the common guns, and we're going to be starting with the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh is what I would like to call the beginner-friendly sniper, without the scope. It hits extremely hard and it's strong against Arc enemies. It's also very effective against other raiders. The downside is there is only one bullet in a mag, so after each shot you do have to reload. However, this gun is very effective throughout all stages of the game. I still use it now, 40 hours later. Next up, we're going to talk about the Hairpin. In my honest opinion, this is not a combat weapon. It's not good against the Arc and it's not good against raiders. The strength of the Hairpin relies in stealth. It's good for taking out cameras or clearing out ticks and staying unnoticed. Think of the Hairpin as a tool, not a gun you win fights with. Next up we have the Rattler. This is a fully automatic assault rifle. It does have a smaller magazine, however. It's okay versus Arc enemies and it's okay versus the raiders, but it also does not excel at either. It uses up medium ammo, and I will point out that this is probably considered one of the weaker weapons in Arc Raiders. However, it does offer a decent balance between Arcs and Raiders, which some people might prefer. Moving on to the Kettle. This is a semi-automatic assault rifle that uses up light ammo. This gun is incredibly strong against Raiders, and it's a solid choice for PvP. This gun shoots as fast as you pull the trigger. However, I will say it does struggle against Arc enemies compared to other options. If you are confident in your aim and in your trigger finger, I do recommend the Kettle in PvP. Finally, I'm going to talk about the Stitcher. This is a fully automatic SMG and it is probably one of the best low tier weapons for fighting against raiders. I would suggest using this if you are not confident in your trigger finger, as the Stitcher is unbelievable at close range. However, the drawback of this is, against Arc, it doesn't do any damage, it will just consume a lot of ammo. I always bring a Stitcher into every run that I go into because you never know who you're going to encounter. As a beginner, it's not about knowing which weapon is the best, it's about finding what fits your playstyle. I can give you guidelines on each weapon, but I really recommend trying them all yourself. At the end of the day, Arc Raiders is about using what you are comfortable with. With weapons covered, let's talk about Arc enemies, because even the right gun won't save you if you don't understand how they behave. First up, ticks. Ticks are small spider-like Arc enemies. They are not a huge threat on their own, but they can punish players who stand still. They attach to you and deal damage, and you can usually tell if they are about to pounce because they usually back away first. They also make a high-pitched noise, so if you hear that, you know they are nearby. Keep moving and deal with them quickly. They usually die in like 1 to 2 bullets. Wasps are small drones that patrol the map. They are weak, but they punish players who stay in the open. You could tell a wasp is about to fire when its laser turns red. That's your cue to take cover. Wait out the burst, then shoot the wings since those are the weak points. Cover is the safest way to deal with them. Similar to the wasp, we have the hornet. Hornets are more dangerous. The front two wings are reinforced and they fire a single high damage shot that can stun you. Just like wasp, the laser turns red before they shoot, giving you time to react. You can dodge the shot with a well-timed roll or take cover. If you're fighting one, aim for the back wings. Those are weak points. You can do this by crouching. Next up we have pops and fireballs. I'm grouping these together as they behave almost the same. Pops have a visible ring around them and are weaker, but they explode if they get close. Fireballs are tougher and leave burning flames when they explode, which can damage you over time. The safest way to deal with both of these is to keep your distance and kill them before they reach you. The center part of the balls is their weak point. The last enemy I'll cover here is the snitch. They're easy to spot, they hover high and constantly scan with a large blue laser. If a snitch sees you for too long, it calls in reinforcements, usually a hornet and two wasp. The best option is to avoid its line of sight since they seem to react more to movement and noise. If you do get spotted, take it out quickly. Long range weapons work best because once it locks onto you, it's a race against time. These are the main arc enemies you'll deal with most early on. If you want a deeper breakdown of the higher tier enemies, let me know and I will cover those next. Now that you understand arc enemies, the final piece of surviving consistently comes down to understanding the core mechanics of arc raiders. Arc raiders lets you enter raids using a free loadout, which drops you in with the bare minimum, a low tier shield, a common weapon, a grenade, one shield recharger and a small amount of healing. This is the best way to learn the game, with almost no risk. And the biggest upside is that if you extract successfully, you get to keep any loot you find, even on a free loadout. When you deploy into a raid, it can either be a fresh match or one already in progress. You can usually tell by checking the timer at the top of your screen. Joining a match late puts you at a slight disadvantage since loot may already be taken. So in those situations, I recommend quick scans of nearby buildings and extracting early. Many quests in Arc Raiders are exploration based, where you're asked to go to locations or scan an item. These are low risk and ideal to do on a free loadout. However, some quests require you to extract with a certain item, and when that's the case, don't linger around. Go in, complete the objective, and get out. It's the safest way to progress and you'll still earn rewards. It's good to know that Arc Raiders has multiple maps, each with a different kind of feel. Dam Battlegrounds is the first area you unlock. Buried City is more of a residential and enclosed area. Spaceport is more open but also includes a tunnel system. The Blue Gate mixes open terrain, towns, tunnels, and it even contains a bunker. And finally, Stella Montis, a fully indoor research facility with multiple floors, where PvP tends to be much heavier. Each map lasts up to 30 minutes, but raids can have modifiers. Lush blooms increase plant-based loot. Prospecting probes usually involve probes that drop into the map with valuable rewards, although they are usually guarded by Arc. You may also encounter weather and time of day changes with these variables, like night raids where Arc is also at a higher presence, or electromagnetic storms. Storms damage both players and Arc, so take cover often if you do play this mode. Certain loot types spawn in specific areas. When you hover over items in your inventory, the game often tells you where they are found. Residential items appear in residential zones, while electronic items are usually located in areas marked with a lightning icon. Some of the loot you find may be used to upgrade your workbenches or take part in seasonal events. It's always worth checking what materials your upgrades require and what events are active. Arc Raiders is actually very generous with rewards if you take the time to understand what you are collecting. A unique mechanic in Arc Raiders is that some of the loot items actually have a use beyond just selling or turning them in. You may find valuables that can be used as healing items or arc parts that function like grenades. Because of this, it's worth taking a moment between raids to read the description of your items. You might be carrying something far more useful than you realize. This also leads into grenades, as grenades are extremely useful in Arc Raiders and there are several types that you can encounter. Fire grenades is a type of grenade you will encounter. These leave a trail of flames where they land, making it great for just AoE damage and blocking off areas, especially if a team is rushing you. Heavy grenades are your standard frag grenades. You throw them and they explode after a short delay. There is also impact grenades, which, as it says in the name, explodes on impact. One of the most underutilized grenades is the smoke grenade. They are incredibly useful for escaping tough situations against raiders, blocking line of sight from arc enemies and covering revives or repositioning. Smokes can often save a run without firing a single shot. That wraps up this beginner's guide. Arc Raiders throws you in with very little explanation, but once you understand the fundamentals, the enemies and the core mechanics, the game really opens up. If this helped you, feel free to leave a like or comment and I'll cover more in-depth Arc Raiders content in the future. Thank you for watching and keep your loot safe out there.